Okay, folks, part 3. Welcome back to RGR. This is Jeff Porter, our resident statistician. Helps me figure stuff out because numbers blur after a while. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell here on RGR. We're a Chiefs channel. If you guys have not found us and it's, a week before the draft, and you're just looking to learn more about the draft class, welcome in. We cover that in its entirety, and you can get more at rogueapc.com. That's where our draft guide and the athletic matrix is. The best athletes show up in the matrix, and I can prove it to you, so go check that out. We are here, and we're finding the point where we're going to talk about a little bit about a process, but before we get there, our defense has to come along. One of the reasons the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl is because their defense stood up. And so you have to have the athletes, right? I always look at the matrix, especially at the linebacker level, because I think roles are getting, more and more specific. We don't see the take on giant linebackers anymore. But it's always hit or miss. Willie Gay was the best athlete in his class, even better than Isaiah Simmons, and both of them struggled to become full impact players that, say, Micah Parsons became, who was not as good an athlete in testing as they were. So my question to you is, looking at your perspective and everything that happens on the field and produces a stat, who's the linebacker that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that there wasn't 2, there wasn't 5 linebackers. There weren't 5 linebackers. It was one guy that really jumped out as I was looking through the stats in your list of linebackers that you will have in the draft guide and the athletic matrix, and it turned out to be a North Carolina State guy. How about that? Payton Wilson. Yes, indeed. Their mascot is the Wolfpack. So I need to get this from you, Ryan. Is he a wolf? Is he a wolf Pac-Man? What do you call one player?
I like the Pac-Man thing. That's good. That was well done. You can see Jeff performing at the Argosy in Kansas City. His stand-up routine is live on Friday.
There you go. Anyway, Mr. Payton Wilson, 6'4" and 235 pounds as a linebacker. That almost sounds like close to tight end material. He is a beast that gets released. He's got numbers from this past season that are amazing. He played 12 games for the Wolfpack. And the number of games, that he had 6 or more solo tackles. He made the tackle by himself 2/3 of the games. 8 of the 12 games, he had 6 or more solo tackles. The number of games that he had 10 or more total tackles, where they add in the solo and the assists. 9 games where he had 10 or more total tackles. For the season, he had 6 sacks out of those 12 games. He had 3 interceptions. He had 2 fumble recoveries, a partridge in a pear tree. He even had a rushing play, Ryan, 1 carry for 3 yards. And so I got curious. I'm like, come on, did he really run the ball? And I looked at the play. It was in the game versus Louisville. And in the second quarter, 4th down and 1 on the Cardinal 45-yard line. So if he ran for 3 yards, he got a first down. Again, if you want a deep dive on Payton Wilson, you can get the athletic matrix and the draft guide. You can see how his defensive stats pile up. And you can look at some of the receivers that we talked about last week, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you bring him up because he is number 1 in the linebacker production matrix. Raw stats aside, when we put it all together in the algorithm and take some averages, some standouts against every other player in the country, at least the ones that are eligible in this class, production number 1. He's athletic matrix number 6 as well. I have 2 testing results I have to get in there still, so that could change slightly. There is 1 or 2 guys that might be able to push up past him, but right now he's number 6. So that's a pretty positive kind of impact that you can get from a guy that leads in both categories. His film is solid. He's a chase linebacker. He's not going to stick his nose in there and try to take on guards as well. He doesn't even wear knee pads, and sometimes that bothers me, but I'm going to give him credit because he does make so many plays. But I think he's an interesting pick, and especially in a year where the Chiefs are looking at Cam Jones being their 4 at this point, you could see something like that happen. His injury, I think, is probably going to knock him down. He's had double ACLs, so we'll see what he gets to. But he's a guy that the Chiefs might look at if the medicals pan out.
Yeah,
It's kind of,
what's your thoughts, Ryan, about where he might go? Is there any chance of him going in the first round?
I don't think so because of the medicals. And I think he's just a little bit too much outside the standard. On film, he's a chase-only linebacker. I don't think he has enough sand to really like jack up a guard or take somebody on inside the gaps. He can on occasion duck times, and he looks a little like Derek Johnson, where he can actually change his pad level and get down and around somebody, but he's not going through guys, at least not from what I've seen on film. So I think he's probably a solid day two guy, and with his athleticism and the production that you've highlighted, I think he's definitely somebody that could go in round 2 or 3. We'll see just where. I'd love to have the medical report, but alas, HIPAA, what are you going to do? Yeah. But it all comes back together, and that's kind of how our process, and that's where I wanted to get to you as well. Like what you see from the process is different than what I see, because I'm doing a lot of like combining rather than deep dives, right? Because that's what the algorithm's for. We've built it up over the years, and I've programmed it for going on, folks. If you have not seen this yet, the algorithms are going on 14 years. They're adjusted every year as athletes get better and things change a little bit, but that's how far we've come. So combining things together is always a challenge. Is anything for you, like, where are we going next? Do you have anything that like you want to focus on either in the next class, or what you think like maybe the miles per hour is doing to our evaluations, or where you want to see it go next?
Yeah, I guess, I didn't realize, first of all, that you've been doing this for 14 years. That's very impressive. And how awesome would it be to grab one from 14 years ago that you put out and sort of do a compare and contrast with how things have changed, how much things are the same. And, obviously, I'm sure your graphics have improved and calculations have changed. But, yeah, that would be interesting to see, I think, and a comparison.
It's definitely different, and my graphics have improved. I will say that. I won't say they're drastically. I'm not a graphic artist, folks, but I do what I can. It's definitely been an evolution in the way that players are changing. The 11 personnel and how fast players come off the line of scrimmage. The wide receivers have changed. The linebackers aren't the take-on type anymore. They are all athletes of some kind. Probably, I would say, just looking at the numbers, because I do keep a master list going back. The first full set of data I had was in 2012. So 12 full classes.
Nice.
The linebackers now that are in the 10 to 15 range in the athletic matrix for linebackers would have been in the top 8 in classes back then. Cornerbacks, the same way. The only ones that have been kind of static are the running back group. And that kind of plays into what's going on with them as well. So I think there's evolution to come, and I think we're going to continue to see new things change. And next year, we'll probably have to tweak the algorithm a little bit as well, based on how many chances. Like you said it the other day, and then, folks, if you haven't seen the rest of the series, go back and check out the first 2 installments as well, because it's about opportunity based on your offensive line, the quarterback that's throwing to you, whether they're running 12 personnel or they're running, a spread. There's just so much in college that you have to take into account. Do you have a feel for where the next evolution comes?
No, I really don't. One thing I wanted to ask you about, if I can bounce a question off of you, Mr. Tracy, the NFL Combine and the prospects have their, pro days, and they're out there running around in shorts and a T-shirt, and they're doing their various skills of throwing and catching, stopping, jumping, and all that. In your opinion, why doesn't the NFL or, the evaluators there at these events ask these players to put a helmet on, put shoulder pads on, to give them more of an idea of that player's performance on a field during game day?
There have been experiments with that from time to time. And there still are in some of the other, like the UFL and XFL. They have had tryouts where they're timed in pads to try that. And what they found was that the restriction of the pads and playing the game actually limited what they thought the player was fully capable of. So this is trying to get an idea that you're absolutely right. The shorts and the T-shirts thing is a different animal. I'm all for running the gauntlet at the combine, but that's not what you do every day. You know what I mean? So there is a difference there, but it gives you that differential. If you test a guy and he's, 4.2, if he's hitting 24 miles an hour because he trained to run on a track and he puts pads on and all of a sudden he's like 18, if there's a 20% drop off, you know that there's physicality there that you can train into him. It's about technique or release or something like that. I think it gives you a better idea of where to hone in on what you can change to maximize what you get out of a given player. And that's the stuff that's completely fascinating to me, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you think about two receivers that come to my mind, Puka Nacua and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Those guys, they have the helmets on. They might have the visor, right, the mask fully padded up. That ball is in the air, and they are able to track that thing. And when the ball hits their hands, it's getting caught.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. And I think it might be difficult for evaluators to see that, at the combine and their pro day. But, like you said, they may want to see them do more things that they might not be able to do if they had the shoulder pads and the helmet on.
And that's why it's part of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. I'm not one of the analytics guys that says, hey, the numbers are everything, because they're not. Because they'll never be able to tell you what that arc was that he had to track it on. And did he have to track it over his shoulder? That's something that I pay a lot of attention to. The farther we get into spread offenses that are running vertical routes, you have to be able to track over your head. And it's funny because that's where the All-Star games came in. That's the first place Dan and I saw Puka was at the Senior Bowl. And he stood out to both of us and was in our notes pretty dominantly. I never thought he was going to turn into this, but I would have been happy to have him on the roster to see what he could have done.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. I think Mr. Nacua is going to be around for a while, and whoever follows up Matt Stafford for the Rams will be very happy to have him around.
He should be. You never know. You might see Puka Nacua in Kansas City on a second contract. There's always that. So, folks, make sure you like and sub and hit the bell. Come get the draft guide. It's at rokeapc.com and use the code RGR. You're going to get a discount there. It's got all of Jeff's stats in it for all of the production. We rank them all the way down. We add in the matrix and all the stuff that I do, as well as all the study that Dan and I and EJ put into this. I can't even count the man hours we do this every year, but it's pushing into quadruple digits. That's how much time and effort goes into this. And Jeff kicks us off and starts us every single season. And I can't say thank you enough, Mr. Porter, for getting us on that road every year.
Glad to do it, Mr. Tracy. Yep, I enjoy, for some crazy reason, gathering all those statistics and putting them in a spreadsheet and work your magic, as we talked about in this first episode. And yeah, everybody get out there, take a look at the matrix and the draft guide. It's good stuff.
It's going to be a good time, and we're almost to draft day. Look for our previews. We'll try to get Jeff's sneaky picks. That's what we'll do. We'll do a sneaky pick show. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you for being here, folks. We appreciate your time and effort. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. And Jeff, thank you for getting in front of the camera again.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Take care.